Okay, today is our last video on the lesson on James Monroe, our fifth president. And today we are shifting to talking about James Monroe's foreign policy. And a huge foreign policy development happened during his presidency, and we are going to talk about that. It was called the that lost all fat. It's called the Monroe Doctrine. And this will be the current U.S.'s stance on foreign policy for the next chunk of time. So let's dig right into it, shall we? At the Great European Conference, the Congress of Vienna, the monarchs of Europe gathered to return the continent to its status before the French Revolution. The European powers banded together to eradicate democratic movements that threatened their thrones. In 1821, the Holy Alliance, so another alliance, Russia, Austria, Prussia, and France quashed liberal movements in Italy. Then in 1822, at the Congress of Verona, the alliance decided to put down Spanish rebels. And in 1823, France crossed the Spanish border and restored the Spanish king to absolute authority. Rumors spread quickly that the autocratic alliance would next send armies to the revolted colonies of Spanish South America and restore the king to power there as well. So the whole basis of the Monroe Doctrine is these European powers and this East Hemisphere, Europe, Italy, all those people, Germany, was continued to stoke fear and power to the democracies of the Western Hemisphere. Britain had profited from the breakup of the Spanish monarchy in South America by developing a thriving commerce with the Spanish republics. In 1823, the British Foreign Minister George Canning sought to join with the United States and renounce any interest in acquiring any South American territory and declare opposition to any French interference with the South American colonies. Secretary of State Adams recognized that while the proposal was flattering, it was not in the best interest of the United States. He pointed out the alliance with Britain would mean abandoning the possibility of someday adding part of South America to the United States. He felt that the U.S. should proclaim a unilateral policy against the restoration of Spain's colony. Adams told Monroe, who would be more candid as well as more dignified, to avow our principles explicitly to Russia and France, then to come in as a cockboat in the wake of the British man of war. So, not to be selfish or anything, but the United States, was looking for a mutually beneficial agreement of sorts. Monroe agreed with the arguments Adams made and decided to include a statement of American policy that reflected those arguments in his seventh annual message to Congress in December of 1823. The Monroe Doctrine, as it was later called, had two main points. First, Monroe proclaimed that the era of colonialization in the Americas had ended. The American continents, by the free and independent condition which they have assumed and maintained, are henceforth not to be considered as subjects for future colonization by any European power. So, first main point, no colonization. No colonization. That was the first main point. He said, okay, we've already covered this. Europe's political system was different than that of the New World, and he felt the two should not be mixed. He stated that any any attempts any attempts by European powers to extend their political system to the Western Hemisphere would be seen as a threat to the nation's peace and safety. The second point Monroe made in his policy statement was that the United States would not interfere with existing European colonies. So, what does that mean? Already established colonies could stay. Already established colonies could stay. At the time, since the Monroe Doctrine was not a treaty or a law, it drew little attention either in the United States or abroad. In reality, the U.S. didn't have the power to enforce this unilateral announcement. However, Monroe and his staff knew that the British Army, the most powerful in the world, would protect South America so that their markets remained open to British trade. Monroe's doctrine gave voice to a spirit of patriotism in the United States and then eventually became one of the cherished principles of American foreign policy. So at the time, the Monroe Doctrine wasn't seen as this great and big new foreign policy announcement from the United States. But as time progressed, the Monroe Doctrine became a fundamental part of the foreign policy. See you guys in the next lesson videos.